Ooh, it's so good.
Hello and welcome to Track vs. Track. I'm Jacob Rosdale. I'm joined this episode by Matt Jensen, the founder of our experiment here, and special guest. A lot of Wartburgers watching this will know him. They will love him. It's Mr. Steve Murray. Hello, Mr. Murray. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing okay.
They may know me. I don't know if they'll like me, but that's okay. I'm not really in it for the likes, so, you know.
They'll come to love you.
Right. We'll see. Yeah.
We asked Steve what record he would like to talk about, and kind of surprising Matt, I think, he picked Beck's Modern Guilt from 2008. Something Matt and I both own on compact disc. I think it was one of the last CDs I probably ever bought, because I think I got a car with an aux cable soon after this.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's right in that wheelhouse, because I think it was one of the last two that I bought. I think the very last CD, not to go on a tangent here, but I will, is that it was Brothers by the Black Keys, I think. Does that seem right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been around 2009.
Black Keys, like 2009, something like that. I think that was the last album that I actually bought on, the disc.
The shiny disc.
Yeah, it's sad.
I don't know, Matt, you still buy CDs? I know you're a big physical media guy.
Oh yeah, I still buy them. And actually, here's the problem. Since about 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, I really got into vinyl. And if it's a band that I really like, I'll usually double dip and buy the CD and the LP. If it's an album and it's a group that I collect. Now, the Beck stuff, I don't have any of it on wax. I actually was looking at getting Odelay on vinyl, and it was like $100 on eBay or something like that. It's like, I can't justify that. I'm sure it'll be reissued at some point, but as far as I know, and I'm sure they made, some wax pressings of this too, but I've never in the wild come across it before. And I didn't even bother, because for these shows, Steve, I usually like to have, kind of like how Jacob has that Mutations in the back there. I usually like to have the album in question. Look at that. The perks of working at a record store, right?
Well, this is from a club, a Vinyl Me Please, I believe. Yeah, I think it's coffee colored.
Oh, I thought it was from like a Columbia Music Club sort of thing, like $1 like for 10 CDs back in the day or whatever.
Right.
I think I paid a $70 membership, and then that was like Jensen, my record of the month or something.
It's like you got your own personal like Sam Goody store back there or something behind you. What is this? This is amazing. Is this your CD? This is your album collection here?
This is just a single room too. I've got
a chunk of it.
Multiple rooms in my basement with floor to ceiling built-ins. Yeah, these are just movies actually right here. This is makes the wall. This is what makes the wall. There's another room, a large like unfinished part of the basement with lots of Rubbermaid storage containers, and I've even exhausted that space now. So
that's actually structural behind you. That's like holding the house up. We don't want to pull the wrong one because it'll be like Jenga, right?
Right. Well, or like in the Addams Family, what is the book that they pulled and they go down the chute or whatever?
Right.
Oh, yes. Greed. Playmate, come on and play with me. Da, 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 da. Yeah. But all I have for Beck is CDs. I've got this one. This was not the last one I bought though, because you said this is the last CD period that you both bought. So this is the last Beck album on
Colors.
CD that I bought.
Oh, Colors. Yeah.
He's got a few though since then. But did Morning Phase come out?
Yeah.
Morning Phase was after this. Yeah.
Right. Morning Phase was after Modern Guilt. Yeah.
Before.
I actually didn't get Modern Phase. There you go. Sea Change, Mutations, of course.
My personal favorite.
Midnight Vultures.
I have. You gave me that album actually, Matt. I don't know if you remember way back. You gave me the Mutations album back when we were at school. Yeah.
I do remember that. So this is not my original. You have my original.
I do.
Good memory on that one. Yeah.
Well, and so there we go. That's going all the way back to the initial release before, and then also Mellow Gold too. Yeah. See, I'm a Beck fan, and I've always been a Beck fan, and it's one of those things that I can't necessarily explain because he's one of those artists and I'm not saying this is unique to Beck because other artists do this too, but they have these different sort of phases and these different personas, if you will, at least as expressed through their music. And so I would say that there are some phases that I appreciate more than others, but by and large, I just really enjoy all of his output, really. And I think that the reason I chose, I don't know if you're going to ask me this or not.
I was going to ask
tell
you
anyway.
Yes,
the reason I chose Modern Guilt was kind of a couple of reasons. One, it's one of his shorter albums. I thought that would be good. We can get through this pretty much. I'm kind of over it already. No, I'm kidding. But it's one of his shorter albums. It might be even his shortest. I'm not sure, but it's like a half hour. But that's not why I chose it. I chose it because I think it's kind of maybe one that's overlooked a little bit. So this was after, of course, Odelay, after The Information, and after Claro, which was, I thought, a great album too. I loved that one. But this was right before Morning Phase, which of course is what he had won the Grammy for what was the best album of the year, I think, as I recall. And so I think maybe Kanye had a co-author on that, at least on the acceptance part. I don't know if you remember that. He came up and did that. That was that year. That was that year, I think.
Beyonce thing.
That was on Beyonce. But then he came up again to try to, anyway. So
right, I forgot about
that. Yeah. Kids can YouTube that later. So but anyway, so I think it's kind of maybe overlooked. I also feel like, and I don't know for sure, but I think this is maybe the last studio album of his contract that he had with, I was trying to look this up. Was it Interscope?
Interscope.
Columbia? Interscope. Okay, yeah, Interscope. And so I always kind of wonder, like, okay, what's that look like? Obviously people draw up these contracts and they're for however many albums, however many years, whatever. But it's like, is this really like a full baked sort of product, or is this like, okay, let's get this over with? But I don't think it is, but I don't know. I'm obviously not a studio producer. I'm not involved in that sort of creative sphere of sorts. So I don't know what that looks like, but it just makes me wonder a little bit about it. And so I think it's a good album. It's one of those that I can just kind of put on and listen to it through and not feel like there's any major clunkers where I'm like, oh my God, this track again? I got to click through that one or whatever. Yeah, I've always been a big Beck fan. I've seen him a couple of times in concert, both here in KC. Interestingly, he opened for U2 at Arrowhead Stadium, which was kind of strange, but it was cool. I mean, it was great. It was a great concert. But anyway, there you go.
Oh, yeah. You've kind of mentioned it already. It sort of flows into each other. It's very easy listening. Might make it a little hard to talk about it on a track by track basis, but that's what we're going to try to do. And I say all that because it's a good segue, to me at least, for the first track, which is called Orphans, which honestly, I listened to it, I like it, and then by 2 tracks in, if you asked me how Orphans went or anything about Orphans, I would not remember a thing. There's a lot of good stuff going on. I don't think it coalesced into anything. But if either of you disagree, feel free to speak up. It's my number 8.
Wow, that's surprising. Yeah, I'll take the baton from you. It's in my top 3.
Wow.
And when I heard this
I must be a
song,
dum-dum.
No. When I heard the song, so my experience with this album does not go very far. It looks like I'm a huge Beck fan because I showed off pretty much his entire discography up until Colors. But I actually had a gap in there. I think I went as far as Midnight Vultures and didn't buy any up until the one you were talking about, Steve, the one that won the Grammy.
Morning Phase.
Right, and then I was like, oh, he's probably put out like 1 album since then. He'd put out like 3 or 4, so I bought them all, and I don't even think I even listened to them. I just kind of shelved them, and I don't think I'd actually ever listened to Modern Guilt. I've had it for maybe 10 years. I don't think I'd ever actually listened to it until you suggested this, and actually which was great. What an awesome excuse, and that's what kind of the sole purpose in this channel is, for us to do a deep dive into albums that we're interested in, that we just haven't had the time to dedicate to it. This is one that I would have, completely off my radar, owned it, but just hadn't listened to it. So when I heard that first track, I was like, damn, I've been missing out on a really great album. And the first, 20 seconds, I was like, oh, this is a Danger Mouse production, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't like synthetic music. And that's kind of been what's turned me off from Beck at a certain point. I don't know if it ever turned me off completely, but just music of the 2000s, even to the present day, like I was a huge Radiohead fan. I was a huge Flaming Lips fan, and just everything got so synthetic. So produced. I do like the psychedelic touches, but this song, it has that at the beginning of it, but then it kind of just gets into a standard instrumentation, great vocal harmonies. The part that's memorable to me, Jacob, is the cast off these creatures right there. I just love that.
And there's lots of little good bits in it, but because it's just little bits, I don't remember it. There's nothing that really hooks into it.
I must say, it's funny because I am not a lyrics guy by and large.
And for Beck, it doesn't matter.
Well, right, often. I mean, for Beck, I mean, it's, turkey neck hanging on a pigeon wing, gotta, sort of stuff from Odelay and whatever. So, I mean, yeah, it could be whatever. But so I'm not a lyrics guy, but even beyond Beck, just generally, my first inclination when I'm listening to an album is always the music, the bed, what's happening here, what's the instrumentation like, which probably doesn't come as a surprise to you because I'm kind of an instrumental guy. No pun intended. No, I'm an instrumentalist by nature, so it's just what I listen to first. I could tell you some of the lyrics, but it's not something that I'm going to be able to pass the test on. So I hope that's okay.
Total word salad here, and I should address right now, if you're watching this and you don't know Steve and you don't know Matt, they're both musicians. Do you have a master's degree in music? I know Matt does. Both
no.
have. Oh, you're just a regular,
just
bachelors of music.
Just a bachelor.
And I can't carry a tune, so I'm still out of my depth here. But where does Orphans rank for you, Steve?
So I am with Mr. Jensen. It is in my top 3 as well, actually.
But you just okay, all right.
That's all I got to say about that.
For me, this song, Jacob, it doesn't have as many memorable hooks to it, but there are like lots of little fragments of melodies in this song, which I think maybe is why you don't come away with like a hummable thing in your head. But I think this song, almost like "You Never Give Me Your Money" or Uncle Admiral Halls. I know that's a bit of a stretch to call this song like a McCartney multi-movement thing, but it has little vignettes or little sections to it that I think work well together, and they're better than just the sum of its parts. I think that's what I think about this song. I really, and as the album moves on, like a lot of albums do, particularly albums produced in the last 20 years, that they put the strength of the album at the beginning, and I think. There was times over the past week when I was listening to this album that my attention maybe waned a bit as I got further into it. And this one, always caught my attention. I always put forth my, best efforts in really trying to pay attention to what was going on. So maybe that's why it's in my top 3 too.
I think it's got I think it's got a strong opening. I really like the open of it. I like how it sounds. I just like the sound of it, and I think that's probably indicative of actually in this case Danger Mouse being produced on as well. It's got kind of a, I don't know. It's got this kind of reverb sort of vibe. It's got this sort of fuzzy quality to it. This texture that's a little bit of a throwback to sort of some of those '60s and early 70s sort of sound, and not on all the tracks on this disc, but a lot of them, and I appreciate that. I think that's one thing that speaks to me.
You're not going to give me a better transition than that, talking about 60s sounds, moving on to Gamma Ray, which begins with a very surf rock intro with a bum 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 bum. This was a single. I remember hearing this one quite a bit. It's in my top 3. I do like Gamma Ray. It's one of the catchier tracks, too. At one point, I listened to this album a lot preparing. I would get burnt out a little on it, and it would drop out of the top 3. Then I'd give it some space, listen to it again. I'm like, no, it's a good song. Shoot right back up there.
That's so funny that you said that, because I was going to open my Gamma Ray analysis with, this has been my floater between top 3 and right beneath it, because it is probably the least synthetic song. I mean, this sounds like you said, surfer rock. It sounds like a band is up there playing it. Also, we were talking about lyrics, or Stephen was talking about how he's not a lyric guy, and I'm not either. But for whatever reason, I'm trying to pay attention to the lyrics on this song, at least on one of the listens. And Beck's voice, and maybe it's the production too, but he just doesn't enunciate the words very well. And even if you were like trying to understand what he's saying, it's hard to make out what he's saying. This song is pretty clear though. I think the vocals come out pretty clear. But on the last listen, I just missed my top 3, so I have this at number 4. But I really like it. Very catchy.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say, one of the most memorable tracks on the album. It is in my top 3. So,
all right.
So there's that. But yeah, everybody's gone surfing USA. That's what at the beginning anyway. That's what it feels like a lot.
And I love the Hulk,
which is fun.
So anything referencing gamma radiation, of course, is going to make my top 3. Another single, I believe, is track 3, Chemtrails. Who wants to start the conversation on Chemtrails?
So I'll start on this one. So this, I didn't even know that this was a single, actually, from the album until I was doing some reading up on it.
Same here.
It was the first single from this album, which kind of blows my mind a little bit because it's very strange. I think as I read and learned a little bit more, speaking of the lyrics, some of it has to do pertaining to, jet trails and things like that, and conspiracies sort of like, oh, is this affecting da-da-da? I don't know how much of, that's baked into.
You can't understand what he's saying anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of that, but I like the sound of it. I don't love it. It's just not my jam. I don't know. It's I feel like, the little drum break, it's like, did we get Ringo in here to do this drum
I love
break?
the drums.
What the heck happened here?
But maybe it's because I don't know enough, but I think the drums are really, I don't know if they're actual drums or if it's totally drum machine, because it's Danger Mouse. It could just visually you're representing the song very well.
Is that pretty effective? Anyway, so do I tell you my number, what it is?
Yeah,
now?
What's your number?
I put it at 9.
Oh,
it's down there.
It's in my top 3, so I think I must be on the flippy floppy of you guys. I like the druggy. It's word salad. It's typical Beck there. I like him singing in his little falsetto. I can't make out of what he says, but I just like it as an instrument there. I like the drumming. And I also like how it does the very 90s thing of faking out and then coming back.
Right. Yes,
for like 30 seconds, even though it's a 2008 album. It's in my top 3. I could tell from Jensen it's near the bottom for him.
Yeah, I'm with Steven on this. Where this song is placed to, it's kind of a buzzkill. It starts off with barely anything going on. Yeah, there's this, and this happens throughout. Like, are these drums or is this drum machine, or is it a combination of the two? And I hate the sound. Anytime something sounds like drum machines, I'm not really into it.
I think it sounds real here, though.
Yeah, maybe it does. I think you're right.
Yeah.
What I will say about this song is it kind of takes you on a roller coaster. It goes from that real ambient, soft to more rocking, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's dynamics to the song. It kind of goes on too long, though. At the end, it's like Helter Skelter on the White Album. You think the song is over. Oh, there it comes back again, right? I got blisters on my fingers, right? Yeah. Speaking of Ringo. Hard to believe this was a single too. Yeah, it's probably the most psychedelic song, which I appreciate. But I don't have it quite as low as Steve, and I actually have it at number 8. And I think I want to give it a 9 or a 10 because I think where Danger Mouse placed this was just stupid. I think this was like a track 8 or a track 9. You kind of just work your way to the end. It's a complete buzzkill from song 2 and song 4. And song 2, by the way, Gamma Ray, we didn't talk about this. It ends like abruptly, right?
Yeah.
This song does the same thing. They both end abruptly.
I think there's one more too.
The same thing. They end the same way. There's no fade out. It's just done.
It's upcut. Yeah.
It's one of his things.
Yeah, and as far as the production of it, yeah, it's curious to me. Like now that you say that, it makes me think more about it. Probably think about it too much, honestly, probably at this point. But why was this the first single? Why was this? First off, why was this a single? Secondly, why was it the first single? And third, why was it the third track on the disc? I don't know. And again, I'm not in that zone, so I don't know what decisions go into affecting that process. But
To me, it seems like a guy who wants to be done with his label. It's like he's doing a Neil Young to Interscope. Like he's trying to put the least commercial song in the three-hole for me, and for most albums, is like the strongest song on the album, right? It's like in a baseball lineup. You put your best hitter at the third spot. It's his last album with Interscope, and then he releases it as the first single. Or like, are you trying to make this album fail? Are you trying to? I almost feel like he did that purposefully because he was kind of giving the proverbial middle finger to Interscope.
Yeah. It's like, are we sandbagging here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But
I liked it.
All conjecture. The views expressed in this segment do not reflect the view. Go on.
Yeah, right.
Title track, Modern Guilt. More up tempo, as Matt pointed it out.
Love the shuffle.
It's got a
shuffle,
groove.
baby.
How would you describe, like, when you say shuffle, is that an actual music term? I never know with you guys. Okay.
It's got a fun bass line to it too, and then the little, little, not quite scat, but little,
the dadas. I think the dadas go on a little too long.
Yes and no.
Oh gosh.
Jensen's got his jazz hands.
And there's piano in here, so if it's got piano, so Matt of course loves it. This is top 3 for Matt.
All over it.
My rating's a little low though. For a track I like, it's my 7. But I do like the song.
You're killing me, man.
Oh, you're not gonna like the rest of how this goes probably either. But it's a track I like. There's just there's 10 tracks. And
somebody's got to be 7.
Someone's got to be 7.
Yeah, this is kind of an impossible task. I don't know why you guys think this is a good idea to because I was thinking about albums. I'm like, oh, what album am I really listening to a lot right now or whatever? And I don't know. Back when you'd asked me like 5 years ago to do this, I think it was maybe I was listening to like the Joshua Tree or something for whatever reason.
Tree.
And I'm like, how the heck am I supposed? I'm not gonna pick that. Like I'm gonna say, oh no, you too. Bono, you really might have laid off of that. In that one part, you probably didn't want to do that. Yeah, right. So anyway, that's how we get to Modern Guilt. But I digress.
What's your number?
My number?
Yeah.
So I love it. I will say it was kind of going up and down the list. It was on the meter in the top 3 for a moment, but it has ended up at number 4.
Top 3, Matt?
Oh, do you even need to ask?
Because of the piano?
Of course it's a top 3. And to me, this song goes between major and minor at times, which is kind of interesting because it's very light and bouncy, buoyant. Reminds me a lot of the Kinks song Sunny Afternoon, if you're familiar with that song. Just has that doon 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 doon. You know the song.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I hadn't picked up on that before, but you're totally right.
Yep, Kinks Sunny Afternoon. So people out there in YouTube land, if you haven't heard that song, check it out and then even compare with this song. Obviously, that's more of a classic song. I prefer that song over this, but the song doesn't have a lot of Danger Mouse production. It's got a very Beatle-esque type of syncopated bass that goes along with that kind of the straight piano quarter notes, and the bass kind of syncopates it off at times. The drums sound a lot more organic and natural. His voice comes out clear. There's that Beach Boy-esque. You talked about the doo-da-das or the la-na-na-nas or whatever, kind of a Beach Boy-esque type Pet Sounds feel to it. So even though it's a simple, bouncy pop song, there's this like wall of sound, but very organic, not synthetic. And yes, top 3 for sure. Stick around and find out where on the top 3 though.
It's your number 1. Track number, I've lost track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is Youthless, which we already mentioned. Cuero. You can roll your G's. I can't.
Cuero.
This one strikes me like I believe it steals a beat from Cell Phone's Dead, which was a single. The donk 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 donk. And I prefer Cell Phone's Dead. And you're allowed to steal from yourself all the time. But yeah, there it is. But it's right in the middle for me. Number 5. Matt, I haven't been letting you talk early very often. Have anything to add about Youthless?
I don't have much more to add. It's actually at the exact same spot. It's my number 5 as well. This was also, I believe, was this the second single? I think it was. Second or third? It was third
single. Yeah.
Third single.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty catchy. I would say up tempo as well. I wouldn't say it's a downer by any. It moves nicely from Modern Guilt to this song. It's just not as good in my opinion. So it's a little bit of a letdown there, but it doesn't. The album doesn't start to wane or lose my attention at this point. I'm still digging it, and I don't have the vinyl, so I don't know if this is this the last song on side 1, or is this the opening song of, since there's 10, Chemtrails is quite long, so it's possible that it's 4 and 6. I don't know how it's sequenced on an LP, but
well, it hasn't been pressed since 2008, so I don't.
If
think
it were
we'll
to
be able
start
to
off
find out.
side, yeah, right. If it were to start off on side 2, I think it's a great side 2 opener, because I don't think song 6 is a great side 2 opener. We won't talk about that at this moment, but if I knew where it was on the vinyl, it actually might even climb higher than 5. But on the CD, it's a little bit of a downer from 4.
Steve.
So I would say this one, it's interesting because I like it, but it's one of those, I don't love it, but I do like it a lot. First off, I'm a sucker for strings because I'm a violin guy.
Very
so.
subtle in this.
I love
buried in the production.
I love that, but I'm always down with a good cellist, so that was fun to hear at the end. The shung dung dung dum dum. And to hear the cello on that. And a shout out, if you believe everything you read on Wikipedia, according to Wikipedia, on that track, Larry Corbett was the cellist. So thought I did a nice job with that. But I think that brings out a nice element that is maybe lacking in some of the other tracks on this album, but I would say generally is something that Beck would, I don't know, I kind of think of knowing of him as an instrumentalist, and so it's not unusual to hear acoustic sounds like the ones on this track on other of his albums and other of his records, but so I like it. It's a 6 for me, so I think we're all kind of in the same ballpark.
In the middle there.
It gives me ELO vibes, Jeff Lynne ELO vibes, like Mr. Blue Sky Out of the Blue. That song particularly, and the end of the song. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Maybe opening track or side B, we don't really know, is Walls. Who wants to start talking about Walls? I think this is the most Danger Mouse track, and depending on how you feel about that drum machine recorded inside of a tin can sound, you're gonna either like this track or not like it. I think this could have been a Gnarls Barkley track. Just listening to it, like replacing Beck with CeeLo. I like the hook. I like how the female vocals, I believe it's Cat Power, coming in with the ooh-ooh-oohs. It's in my top 3 because I think it is. Of course, I'm arguing it's more of a Danger Mouse track than a Beck track, but I think it's singular. I think it is one of the things, like, you couldn't put that in any other. I think there's probably a few of these that you couldn't put in any other Beck album because they're all so singular. But this is the one that's most like, this is my Danger Mouse collaboration album. This is the most Danger Mouse.
It's number 6 for me. We're just right, which is funny. Youthless was 5, and this is 6. I really didn't like it initially, and you're right. There is a melody in there, right? There's definitely something that you can hang your hat on at the end of the song. I couldn't hum it for you now, but shortly after I listened to it, I'm like, there's definitely a sing-songy type of thing in there. Yeah, I just don't really like the production of it. Don't really like the instrumentation, but I don't hold it against the song as a whole. I think the melody can hold up on its own, and that's really all I have. That's really all I have to say about it. I prefer Walls by Tom Petty.
You would.
Off of
She's the One soundtrack. She's the One.
It's not my favorite. It's weird because initially I listened to all these and I listened to them all again. Do you listen to them? Here's a question. Do you listen to them in order each time you listen to them, or do you mix it up?
Mostly in order when it's the album rankings. I'm thinking about starting to shuffle because it'll give me a more accurate, but then we don't get to talk about where it fits in the album. So
right.
This is mental exercises I've done all the time of what, am I judging songs, but as individual things or how they live in the organism of the album. But by this time, are you experiencing burnout?
I don't know about that. I just feel like it it's just a little slow for me. I don't know. It's not my vibe. It's not my jam. I have it at 8.
I remember in high school, it was after this album came out. I was still in high school and talking to a cool college kid. I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was one of you folks.
Which album came out? You were still in high school.
Mutations. That was the one right after Odelay, if I remember. So this has Nobody's Fault But My Own. And that was the song I loved. That was like the big, brooding Beck song.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
And then Sea Change came out, and that was filled with the sad stuff. Anyway, I was told that there's always a happy Beck and a sad Beck. And I've always been a sad Beck guy. And I think this album is probably more in the sad Beck vein than the party Beck of Colors. And Morning Phase is sad Beck.
I like Morning Phase a lot. And it's one that I can just totally listen to. I don't know if it's sad Beck or if it's... I feel like it's introspective Beck. And I think that, I don't know, for some reason... Now, Morning Phase, of course, and I would have chosen that. I don't know why feel like I'm keeping to make, reasons for why I actually chose this album of all of the various albums that exist, But I would have chosen Morning Phase, but that's not really one you can do this sort of thing with, because it's very much through composed. I mean, it's just one track to the next. So almost everything in that is Ataka, I think, as I recall. So it doesn't really work for this sort of thing. But I love Morning Phase, and I like Sea Change as well. Midnight Vultures is like, I don't know what happened there. That was like disco party, like, let's go.
I do like Sex Laws, and yeah,
it was fun.
Beck wants to be Prince. He wants to be Prince on that album.
Yeah. No, it was very flashy, very flamboyant, very fun. But anyway.
And on this one, he wants out of his record contract. So
mission accomplished.
He wants to be. Number 10, or the next track.
What do you have it, Jacob?
The next track is Replica, and it's my number 10. It's very heavy with the bloops and the bleeps, and this is the most skippable track on it. I like Danger Mouse's production. Clearly, I just ranked Walls in my top 3, but this one, it's trying to be OK Computer, and Beck, as much as I like him, is not Tom York. I think if this was an OK Computer B-side and it was Tom York wailing, I'd probably convince myself I loved it. But Replica, maybe it's a replica of a Radiohead scrap. But yeah, too much.
Too much. Whoa, way too much.
Too much.
Whoa.
Pull it back there, DM.
Let's rein it in.
You're half. So that's your 10 too. Yeah.
10. It's a perfect 10 all the way across.
Perfect 10. You sucked it up, boys. Any other way this track isn't good?
10 out of 10. I just, again, like you said, it's the most skippable one. Totally. Yeah. That's my. I would say that same thing.
Yeah, there's nothing going for it, really. I mean, there's nothing memorable about it. It's not something that like offends me. Like, this is crap, But it's a total album filler. There's nothing. I can't imagine Beck spent very much time on this song. I'm sure more time was spent trying to turn this little bit of a song into something. Just a production, track filler.
Probably more time was spent on the lunch order for that day.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Now that you have this picture of him trying to get out of the everything's just looking lazy now that. Just look at the album art. It's just like a picture of their feet in the studio.
Get me out of here.
Well, and actually, when I held these two up, they didn't even change the color scheme from the previous album. Let's use white, brown, and black back to back here.
Great idea. Actually, so I think was the information after.
The information's in between. That's the one with the fun sticker.
Right, the sticker deal. Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that he put a lot of effort into that.
It's minimalist, Jensen. It's minimalist. Here, come on.
Track number 8 is Soul of a Man, coming back with an actual instrument, guitar. If Gamma Ray isn't the most guitar driven, it's probably this one. It's got a good.
It's heavy. It's got kind of a doomy type of metal almost to it.
Edgy.
kind of a Black Sabbath-y, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, and I get Nick Cave and the Bad Seed vibes from this song too. It's kind
a little bit.
You picture like just this guy coming into a saloon with guns drawn a little bit, and there's this dun, 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 dun. Top 3 for me. I love it.
Wow. Top
It was in
3.
my top 3. It somehow got bumped down to number 6. But I remember it was in my top 3, and then I think the great last minute second guessing shuffle happened, because it's about heavy stuff. Even though I couldn't tell you any of the lyrics, just the title of it, that's heavy stuff. What's in the soul of a man? What makes the soul of a man? As Matt did better than me just now. Yeah, right. I left out the
bendy thing in there.
the whammy bar, or whatever you call it. A guitarist I am not, so I
Floyd
apologize.
Rose pickup, I think, right? That's what kind of bends it.
Yeah, maybe.
Bends the bridge a little bit. I'm not a guitarist either.
I don't know. Could be a toothpick for all I know. Soul of a Man, I had it at number 5, and I like the guitar heavy. But here's another thing that I'm wondering. It's following the dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much of that influence is like, oh man, we got real music again. Holy moly! All right, sweet, I'm in. You know,
It's possible.
maybe some of that, but it is a great song. I think. I mean, compared to the other ones on the album, that I would say, I like it, but I wonder how much of that plays into it too, just mentally.
Very fair, because this is what bumped Gamma Ray off my top 3, and I think that it just brought a little life back into the album for me, so I overvalued it slightly. So yeah, I think that's a really good point, Stephen.
Track 9 is Profanity Prayers. Another one with a good groove, I think. It does have that, second to last album, you're feeling like ready to get out. But this is much better than Replica, certainly. It's my number 4. I kind of like the lyrical content. Most of the lyrics we've mentioned are just word salad. I'm not sure if it means anything, but I do like the concept of who's going to answer your profanity prayers. Like, it's just it's a good turn of phrase. And even if the lyrics don't coalesce in anything, it's a funny little thing to hang the song on. But it's my number 4.
Little guy on this shoulder, he's the one that answered the profanity prayers. The other one
more
over
profanity. But you guys are running out of high numbers, so I'm guessing it's kind of low.
So for me, actually, it's in the top 3.
Oh, I can't keep track of anything.
Wow.
No blue. Shit. I'm really putting myself in a corner here for editing.
Don't you have a bleep? You've got a bleeper.
I'll put a bleep.
Yeah, bleep it.
But Matt's probably bored with the album at this point. Where's it at?
Yeah, this is one that I don't dislike. It's number 7. I just think I like 6 better, and it has the Beach Boy-esque type harmonies that you hear. What did I mention that in Modern Guilt? It's got kind of the bouncy quality of Modern Guilt. It's just not as good, and I don't know. I mean, I could probably this Youthless and Walls. I could probably flop those 3 around. Really, they're about at par with the 5, 6, and 7. They're about the same. I feel about the same about them. This one just happened to land at 7 when I did the rankings. So, like the song, just not as much as you guys, obviously.
Yeah. Well, where did you have it, Jacob?
I had it at number 4.
Number 4.
I had it quite high.
Yeah. No, like I said, I've got it in the top 3, and I like it. So it's one of those that kind of keeps going. Like we were talking about one of them earlier. I don't remember if it was it was Chemtrails. It just keeps going.
Chemtrails, yeah.
And going, and going. But it does keep going. But it. About 2/3 of the way through or thereabouts, there's kind of this guitar resurgence when it comes back in with the little, the fuzzy. I kind of like that. I think it's again more of a pick me up, and I like it. Anything with profanity, I'm in.
Let's end the album. Volcano. Slowest track, I think, the whole thing.
Slow things down a little bit.
Trudges, in fact. I have it as my number 9 because I don't think it builds to much of anything. At the very end, it kind of builds to something, but I don't think it builds enough. Just some ahs. I like his singing. I like songs about Japanese girls jumping in volcanoes, but not this one, unfortunately.
You prefer the B-52's Volcanoes better than this one?
Yes.
I have this at number 9 too, Jacob. But I have a feeling our friend below will like it because of the strings, which is pretty cool at the end. I do like that aspect of it, but other than that, I don't really find anything memorable in the song. And as the last statement of an album, you know, you're usually positioned for a really good song, a real banger, epic tune, you know, and this one just kind of falls flat for me. Yeah, it's number 9.
Yeah, so this might surprise you, actually. The strings were not enough to save it for me, actually. I put it at number 7. Again, it's not amazing. Nothing stands out. It's okay. It's not offensive, but it's nothing that I'd care to like, oh, hey, let's pull up that tune again.
All right, as our guest, Steven, you can go first. What are your reveal in order your top 3 tracks, or from 3 to 1?
From 3 to 1. In order, from 3 to 1. I feel like I'm Rick Dees here. Rick Dees in the weekly top 40. Here we go. Or I could, you know, be like Casey Kasem or something. No, here we go. Ugh, Casey Kasem. Sorry. All right, number 3 in the 3 hole, in the 3 spot. And number 3, I've got Profanity Prayers. Number 2, I've got Orphans, the first track. And in the number 1 spot, that leaves Gamma Ray.
All right. For me, I had Gamma Ray as my number 3. Number 2 was Walls, which I believe I'm the outlier on. And I'm definitely the outlier on my number 1, which is Chemtrails, which I believe was near the bottom of both of yours, but is my favorite track on the album. Gets me pumped up to go look at the sky every morning.
Top 3 for Modern Guilt. We are all over the place on this. 2 out of my top 3 didn't appear on any of your top 3. My number 3 is Soul of a Man. And number 2 I have, same as Steven, I've got Orphans. Yep, really like that one. But this absolutely blows me away that you guys didn't have this in your top 3, because this was, like, for me, the most no-brainer. This song is solar systems ahead of number 2. It's the title track, Modern Guilt. I mean, obviously he felt it was the best song because he named the damn album off of it. But then again, if he was trying to sabotage his record contract, then maybe he thought it was the worst. I don't know. I just think it's so infectious. This song has now gone on my like summer 2022 playlist. So even after this whole review thing is done, don't see myself necessarily listening to this again for a while, but that song is going to be in constant rotation. So thank you, Steven, for this exercise, because I found like a new favorite song. I absolutely love that song.
No, I agree. It's a great tune, and it was so close. In fact, I think I mentioned it was within my top 3, but then I was like, you know, it's pretty close, but it's totally up there. It's a great tune, and love the feel of it, love the beat, love the shuffle. I mean, it's just a cool tune.
All right, Stephen, we didn't prepare you for this, but we end our episode with a spinner wheel. All right, we're spinning the wheel. Oh.
Ooh, nice.
So this broadens it out.
Oh.
Just asking what our favorite song by the artist is. So the artist in question is Beck. We've talked a lot about Beck this episode. That's
a tough one. That's a toughie.
I did mention Nobody's Fault But My Own, but Lost Cause on Sea Change is even sadder than that. But I think I'm going to go with Nobody's Fault But My Own. Off of Mutations.
It's so tough to pick just one because it's all so very different. You know, the styles are so different from album to album. Mostly, I mean, obviously there's some parallels between the sad Beck albums, but yeah, it's tough to pick just one. Boy, I'm still thinking.
All right, well, I can go while you're.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Thinking. I'd like to be able to pull out a deep track, but I don't think my experience with Beck is as strong as yours. So I'm gonna go Devil's Haircut. I mean,
Fair
that's
enough.
probably overplayed as much as any other Beck song, but
Didn't pick Loser, so that's you get a point for that.
Where It's At too. I don't know. I like that as well. I like the hits, I guess. Those are my favorites. I'll say Devil's Haircut.
That's fine. You don't have to impress us, Matt.
So if I had to pick just one, I would probably be off of Odelay, because that is, I think, the most fun all around album of his that I enjoy the most, or that I've probably enjoyed the most over the years. So I'd say it's going to be off of Odelay. Maybe, and this is kind of an outlier, I would go with The New Pollution.
I was going to guess that. That's one of the first ones I remember hearing, or
Yeah.
seeing the video for on MTV.
I like it.
Got MTV
It's
later in life.
Yeah, it's I don't know that I've seen the video for it, actually, now that you mentioned that, which is interesting, because I remember seeing the video for Where It's At all the time in heavy rotation.
The line dancing
I
and
love it. The line dancing, like, it was just it was great. And I love that song too. I love Where It's At. Who doesn't? I think, but it's, and the video is really classic for that. But yeah, I think I'd go with maybe The New Pollution.
Great. Well, Stephen, I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of Track versus Track. I hope you had a good time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, had a little glitchy there.
There we go. Is that better? Let me
Yeah,
just
that's much better.
I would just wipe off this.
We don't have a way of ending our episodes yet.
Oh, well, we
so
could
just sort of it always just kind of.
in case I don't see you. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
We'll go with the Truman Show ending then.
There we go.
We wave.
Ooh, it's so good.